The definition for data is simply raw facts and figures. So these raw facts and figures can be categorized or can be broken down into what is known as qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative may also be called categorical. Quantitative may also be called numerical. So for qualitative or categorical, these are observations that can be categorized according to some quality or characteristic. An example is, for example, level of education, race, gender. Right? You can see that these are also variables. If you look at the video we discussed variables, you will appreciate that these education level, race, and gender are variables as well. For quantitative data, these are observations that can be measured or counted. Right? An example, weight. Right? Weight is measured in numbers, height is measured in numbers, and blood pressure is also measured in numbers. So I think you can appreciate the difference between these two examples: education level, race, gender versus weight, height, and blood pressure. Now, when you are dealing with quantitative or numerical data, remember these are observations that can be measured or counted. They can further be broken down into what is known as discrete quantitative data and continuous quantitative data. So under discrete quantitative data, these are values that are either finite or countable, right? So the possible values under discrete are finite, so these are finite numbers, or countable numbers, right? So which is to say there are no fractional or decimal components in the numbers. Examples are 0, 1, 2, and 3, right? And an example would be when you are counting the number of people, right? It's either you have 0, so no people, or you have 1 person, 2 people, 3 people. You cannot have a fractional component whereby you have 1.5 people or 1.25 or 2.3 people, etc. Right? So these are called discrete. For continuous quantitative data, we are dealing with infinitely many possible values that correspond to some continuous scale that covers a range of values without gaps. So here we don't have gaps in between. Remember, for discrete, we have gaps in between, right? So we have 0, 1. So between 0 and 1, there's nothing. So these are discrete. Between 2 and 1, there is nothing. There's a gap there, right? So for a continuous scale, we are saying between numbers 1 and 2, for instance, we have infinitely many possible values between 1 and 2. So we are dealing with a continuous scale. For instance, between 1 and 2, midway between 1 and 2, we have 1.5, right? And still between 1 and 1.5, we still have some numbers, right? So in between here, we can have numbers like 1.4, right? 1.45, 1.455, right? So there are infinitely many possible values between the numbers 1 and 2, right? That's a continuous scale. And examples of continuous scales are height, weight, and age.